Good morning. We have come to Thursday, the 28th of January. Glad that you have joined us this morning. So the quick announcements, of course, we did have a good IT meeting last night, continuing to talk about improving the recording and streaming capabilities at the church. We're going to have a worship committee meeting this evening, primarily focused on Ash Wednesday, with the two alternatives of whether we're back in person and what that would look like, or if we are going to be remote still and how that would look. February 7th, Sunday, is our annual meeting part 2. We break our annual meeting into two parts. The first part elects council members and adopts a budget. The second part hears all the reports from the various committees from the year prior. So that is going to be an online meeting. I believe it's at noon on Sunday the 7th. So if you need a link to that, please check with the office. Then on the 8th, the council will meet to have conversation about, again, worship moving forward, online, in person, combination, whatever. The 6th, which is the Saturday of that weekend, February, that's our from noon to 2 is our food gathering, and also to pick up grinders and chili and salad that you have ordered. If you haven't ordered, again, call the office, and now all that money and all that food will go to help our neighbors in the community. And we've started our own little mini food pantry, free food pantry, a little box outside the door of the church if you want to contribute to that, or make use of it. If you know somebody that's still struggling with food issues of any kind, they can go by there anytime between 9 and 3 on regular work days, and take whatever's in there that they'd like. That's the way it works. Bible studies continue at 6 o'clock Tuesdays on Zoom. Again, I'm happy to send you the link if you'd like to be part of that. Second chapter of 2 Peter is where we are. Another prayer today about young persons. God of all good gifts, your Son gathered children into his arms and blessed them. Help us to understand our youth as they grow in years and in knowledge of your world. Give us compassion when they face temptations and experience failures. Teach us to encourage their search for truth and the value in their lives. Help us to appreciate their ideals and sympathize with their frustrations, that with them we may look for a better world than either we or they have known, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. I'm going to talk about two programs today that our wider church does. Again, moving these ministries that are beyond the scope of a congregation and often beyond the scope of a synod as well. You really need a large connected body to do these things. That's one of the reasons that the 20th century was a century of mergers for Lutherans. We opened the 20th century with all kinds of little bitty synods scattered around, and mostly by ethnic backgrounds. So there were little Danish Lutherans and Finnish Lutherans, Swedish Lutherans, Norwegian Lutherans, German Lutherans, Lithuanian, Latvian, Estonian Lutherans, all kinds of Danish Lutherans. And like Roman Catholics, a lot of them continue to use their languages of origin, either for worship or for confirmation. And in the early part of the 20th century, partly because of issues stemming from the First World War and the desire to have these people be known as Americans, they went to English. Partly also because the original languages were fading away. English was becoming a part of everybody's home life and so on. So English language worship started to take place, and also they started to realize, if we've got a little Danish synod here and a little Norwegian synod here and a little German synod here, maybe what if we were to actually work together? And so over the course of the 20th century, all these little churches became bigger churches, and the bigger churches now have come down to what we have today, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, the largest Lutheran body in North America, followed by the Missouri Synod Lutheran Church, the next largest, and then the Wisconsin Synod, and so on. But for us, for the ELCA, that set of mergers really has opened up opportunities. And so I want to share a couple of those today. Now, yesterday I mentioned the group, the Lutheran Student Movement, and I think when I went back and listened to that, I think I sounded as though that were a past program. In fact, it continues to exist. The Lutheran student movement is in existence today, and you can find it on our church website, elca.org. The two programs I'm going to mention today are a little different from the others. They focus on young people still, but they are year-long experiences, not 5 days at a national youth gathering, not 2 weeks at a church summer camp, or even a couple of years, or the kind of experiences that you might get in a campus ministry, a sort of a sporadic involvement between the students and the parish, or the chaplain, as it may be. So these two programs, one is called, we affectionately call it YAGM, Young Adults in Global Mission. And the second one is called the Lutheran Volunteer Corps. And both of these experiences are 1 year. They're essentially volunteer. There's a stipend for survival for that year. The Young Adults in Global Mission, as the name suggests, takes people, and most often I think these folks have come out of college and have not yet settled on their next step. Do they want to go to grad school? Do they want to go to seminary? Do they want to go into the job market? What field should they seek, or so on? There's some sort of a gap there, some sort of an opportunity for exploring some things that maybe they don't have not had the opportunity to explore. So Young Adults in Global Mission allows a young person, men and women, to apply to serve in a service capacity, of essentially volunteer capacity, again with enough stipend to survive in a place somewhere else in the globe. And we have a number of sites all around the globe. I know that the Middle East, Palestine, is one such site. But the two that I am most familiar with, because I know people that went there, when I was serving in Manchester, I had one young woman who went with this program, Young Adults in Global Mission, to South Africa, spent a year there. And then a little while later, a young man decided to join that program, and he was in Hungary. And so when you go to these projects, these assignments, you are usually hooked up with some community that is either underserved or somehow not quite recognized as the primary force within society. I mean, you go there to learn, but also to assist in some way. Often in a teaching role, there might be some conversation about you being providing some English language. You might be working in an orphanage. You might be working in a medical facility or something. But you're going to become familiar with the culture. And excuse me. To my understanding, in these settings, the individual goes off to this country as an individual, and they are housed with a family, a host family, sort of like an exchange student arrangement. And so they come back really fully immersed in that culture's food and music and language and the issues. The issues. They come back with eyes wider open than when they went. There's a lot of complaint in America about the state of our news media, and I think some fair amount of that is justified. These would be two examples. I mean, what do you know about South Africa, really? What do you know about Hungary, really, right now? Unless you're from there, or unless you have friends that live there. When was the last time you heard Hungary mentioned on the national news? Or South Africa? I've heard South Africa recently just because of the COVID mutation that may have come out of there. But in terms of what's happening in South Africa, the culture, the politics, the religion, any ecological issues, economic issues, how they're relating to the rest of Africa, I don't hear that, and I'd have to go digging to find that out. Same thing with most of Eastern Europe. And for a lot of us, I happen to follow Israel-Palestine issues, but if I didn't deliberately seek it out, I wouldn't hear it on the news. So these young people go off and they become immersed, and of course come back really changed. So the fellow that went to Hungary he was working with what we colloquially know as gypsies. That's not apparently a name that they want to be called necessarily, the Romany people. But they stand on the fringes of their society. Lots of prejudice against them and so on, lots of missed opportunities in their society, and so he was able to be part of that and understand that a little more deeply. And similarly in South Africa, the specific site that our student went to was poor, struggling, and so you get to see life from the underside, but in a way that also shows you the resilience of people, the determination, the skills, and the joys that those small communities have. Now, both these young people that I'm personally aware of came back and went to seminary. Not everybody that goes to Young Adults in Global Mission goes to seminary, but I think maybe some high proportion would, because it's that sort of hunger that drives people to those programs that also often drives people to seminary. This desire to serve, the desire to understand, the desire to communicate, the desire to grow in one's own faith, and all of that. The first one who went to South Africa, she came back and did not seek to be a parish pastor, but took the scholarly route and is now a professor at our seminary in Philadelphia/Gettysburg. The fellow that went to Hungary did come back and go through the seminary with the goal of being a parish pastor, and has been ordained and is serving one of our New England Synod parishes. So that's one program, full year in a place most of us know a little about and have not been. The other program is also a year-long program, a volunteer program essentially with a stipend, but this is quite different. First of all, it's all in America. This is the Lutheran Volunteer Corps. Again, you can find this on the website, and you can apply if you're a person in that age group, that's like 20-ish year old age group or in there. You can apply and see if there's a place for you that suits you and you suit, and so on. But what happens in the Lutheran Volunteer Corps is you don't go spend time in a host home. There actually is a house in a city, and a small community of people gathers there for a year. They live a very simple, humble lifestyle, and they have jobs in the community. And I didn't actually count how many there are, but there are many of these around the country. It originated first in Washington, D.C., with one of our churches there, and spread out now, so that there are several of these around. So, and again, you would spend just that year doing this task in this struggling area of the city. But you'd have a community around you of English speakers. There's no issue here with the foreign language. It's a whole different feel in that regard. But it does have in common this idea that I'm going to give a year of my life, but I'm also going to receive some things during that year that I couldn't receive anywhere else. In college, in jumping into the job market, in some other technical school. All of those things are fine, but if you really are looking for a way to put a different perspective on what you have seen and learned growing up in a typical family in America, either one of these programs would do that for you. As I said yesterday, and the more I think about this, the more moved I am about how much energy, money, skill, creativity, time, organization has gone over decades now into young people's formation. For a church that often laments why it is that there aren't more young people in the pews, the fact remains we have made major commitments, programmatic commitments to young people. Outdoor ministries, campus ministries, the Young Adults in Global Mission, Lutheran Volunteer Corps, Lutheran Student Movement, and the National Youth Gathering. Taken together, the number of lives touched here is profound and important. And our denomination, like all others, struggles with its own internal capacity to continue all these programs in such a way. But at least up to now, I haven't heard any ripples that suggest that we want to back off any of these programs. They're just too important. So if you have somebody in your life, child, grandchild, niece, nephew, somebody who might be in that category, any of those categories, going off to a place where they might be influenced by a campus ministry, or coming out of college and just going to like, well, I don't know what I want to do. Well, here are a couple ideas. You could go to Africa or Hungary or Palestine or other places. There are several sites around the world for young adults in global mission. Or what about the Lutheran Volunteer Corps, and live with a little community of like-minded people in a city and contribute there and come out learning things. I mean, the possibilities are very real. And then, of course, as I said, those shorter things, like a 5-day national youth gathering, or which, by the way, I should say, if the next one's in Minneapolis, that's a little ways off. But if there should be one, I don't know, say in Philadelphia, or New York, or Boston, or anything like that, those big events like the National Youth Gathering, again, 30,000 people, I mean, that's a lot to organize. And those events do accept volunteers, so that people like ourselves, we might say, well, I'm not in the category to go to the event as a participant, but I'd be happy to go there and volunteer to be one of the people handing out, pamphlets at the door or whatever needs to be done, or kind of ushering people around the city, there's lots of jobs that need to be done, and one of the things that makes that possible is the volunteer service of the folks who go do that. That's true also, by the way, of our church-wide assemblies. You can go to one of those as a volunteer and therefore feel like a participant, but you're not there to vote. You're there to facilitate the process. So today, being Thursday, I will not be here tomorrow. Saturday, I will be at the church pre-recording the service for Sunday. And Sunday, if it's not too windy, it'll be cold, but I think if it's not too windy and it's not preciping, we'll try to pull off our hymn sing and the theme of the day, both for the recorded worship and the noontime Sunday event, would be the presentation of Jesus at the temple as an infant, a story most of us are vaguely aware of, but maybe haven't thought through all the implications of that, and I hope to be able to contribute to that in some way. Meanwhile, may you be blessed as our vaccine rollout continues to occur. It's haltingly, I guess, in some places, but we look forward to a time when large swaths of our population are inoculated against the ravages of COVID, and that will facilitate many of our things in church and in the wider society getting back into a more normal rhythm. I think we're all hungry for that. I know I am. But may you be safe today, healthy. May you know joy and blessing.